Hey guys, welcome to the Connect Kitchen. I'm Karman Meyer, dietitian and recipe creator behind thenutritionadventure.com. I'm sharing a wonderful summer recipe with you today, my roasted summer vegetable panzanella. This isn't just a salad, it's a powerhouse of plant-based goodness. We get protein from our mozzarella and our chickpeas, plenty of fiber from our veggies and our whole grain baguette, plus lots of flavor from a homemade dressing. So let's get started. First, we'll start with making our crispy croutons. I have a whole grain baguette here. If you can't find whole grain, that's okay. Just get a regular baguette. But I like the whole grains because it has complex carbohydrates, which means more fiber and sustained energy. We'll just cut this into 1-inch cubes. So I like to start putting it into slices, and then I'll go back and cut it into cubes. We want these in about 1-inch pieces. Doesn't have to be perfect. Once you get your bread cubes in the bowl, we'll add 1/3 cup of olive oil. Make sure it's an olive oil that is okay to go into the oven. Olive oil sometimes has a lower smoke point, so we just want to make sure that it's okay for cooking. And then we add a little bit of salt and black pepper. We'll toss that together, trying to get all of those bread cubes coated in the olive oil. That helps them crisp up in the oven. That looks good. So once they're coated, grab a baking sheet. I'm gonna spread the bread cubes out, giving them plenty of room. When we bake things and we want them to get nice and toasty, make sure you give it plenty of space on your baking pan. That just allows for more air to circulate around, helping them crisp up. And I've preheated my oven to 275 degrees, and they'll bake for about 15 to 20 minutes, but just keep an eye on them. Once they look crispy, take them out. Every oven is a little bit different. While our croutons are toasting in the oven, we'll move on to the rest of the salad. As far as the vegetables going into our roasted summer vegetable panzanella, we have zucchini, some grape tomatoes, and a red onion. And for our zucchini, I'm gonna cut off each end. I usually like to cut it in half just so I have some smaller pieces to work with. Stand it upright and cut it in half. You can do the same with the other piece. And then we're gonna just cut these into half moons, about 1/4 inch thick. You can go ahead and toss your zucchini into a bowl. So there's all of our zucchini, and next we'll cut our cherry tomatoes. And we'll just cut these in half. Lastly, we have our red onion, and we don't need a lot of onion for this, so we'll use about 1/4 of this onion and cut it in half. We'll cut that in half. And from here, I don't want really long strips of onion, so I'll actually cut this part into strips first, and then I'll cut those in half. That's just my preference. And if you like a lot of red onion, feel free to add more. So now that I have these thin slices, I'll bring them all together, and I'm gonna cut those just down the middle so they end up being smaller little pieces. Throw those in to your bowl with zucchini and tomatoes. And just like with our croutons, we're gonna add a little bit of olive oil and salt and pepper. I'm adding about 1 tablespoon of olive oil, nice sprinkle of salt. We really need salt when we're cooking like veggies and a lot of things. So it helps bring out those flavors, and actually the salt will bring out a little bit of that natural sweetness in your veggies. Some black pepper and toss that together. Make sure everything gets coated in the olive oil and those seasonings. That looks good. Put this out onto a baking sheet. Again, give everything a little bit of space. This just helps with that browning, making sure that everything gets some nice color on it when it's in the oven. Make sure you increase your oven temp from when you made the croutons. We baked the croutons at 275, and the vegetables are gonna bake at 350. Into the oven they go. We'll let those bake for about 15 minutes. All right, these look great. They're nice and crispy, a little bit of color. That's just what we want. So I'll set these aside and let them cool. Okay, now we can move on to the star of the show, our homemade dressing. It's really simple to make dressings at home, so if you have a few staple ingredients, I highly encourage you to try it. And today we're just using some balsamic vinaigrette. So I've already added about 1/4 cup of balsamic vinegar to my measuring cup. I have a teaspoon of Dijon mustard. We'll add some black pepper and some salt. I'll whisk this up, and then we'll add in 1/3 cup of olive oil. You can use extra virgin olive oil here. Whisk that together until it looks like that oil has really combined with your vinegar and the mustard. That looks good. So my veggies have been in the oven for about 10 minutes, and I'm gonna go ahead and just toss them around. You don't have to get everything turned over, but this will just help them brown on both sides, and then we'll pop them back in the oven to finish baking. I think our veggies are done. We'll grab those from the oven. Look at those, they're perfect. See that nice color. And so we're gonna combine everything in a bowl. I'll start with the croutons. Place those into a big mixing bowl. And we'll toss in those roasted vegetables. Once we get the veggies in, we'll add our balsamic vinaigrette. Pouring that over top. And then stir it all together. You want to make sure that bread can soak in some of the dressing. So toss it well. And then I like to let this sit in the fridge for about 30 minutes just to help everything kind of marinate. All right, I think it's time to grab our panzanella salad from the fridge. So now we just have a few other ingredients that we're gonna add to this, starting with arugula, about 2 cups. This is a nice freshness. We also have some fresh mozzarella. I've already cut it into cubes. You can find this in the dairy section, cheese section of the grocery store, and it comes in a ball. And then I have garbanzo beans or chickpeas, whichever one you prefer to call them. This is gonna be a good source of protein. Now these are from a can, and I already drained and rinsed them. Fun little fact, when you drain and rinse your beans, you'll cut the sodium by up to 40%. So that just helps a little bit on the salt content of this salad. We can toss that together. And then we have one more important component to this, and that is basil. So basil just adds a great summery flavor to the salad. I went ahead and washed the basil and then picked some of the leaves off, and we're gonna do a fun cut with our basil called chiffonade. Really, that's just a fancy word for cutting into strips. Stack our basil leaves together as best as you can, and then roll them up tight. Take your knife and then just cut those into little ribbons. You can see just nice little curly strips. We sprinkle that on the salad. And you can serve it in that same mixing bowl, or if you're serving some guests, maybe you want a nicer bowl to serve in. So we'll go ahead and dish this up, and it's softened up the bread just enough for the salad. Like I said, this is a fiber-rich and protein-rich option. You could enjoy this for lunch or for dinner, maybe as a side dish with your meal. But I hope you enjoy this recipe and have fun making it in your own kitchen. Remember, cook with confidence, eat with joy, and I'll see you next time.